contact with our associates, let's go with that, in other parts of the universe, I think the more intelligent we'll become and less violent that we still see amongst Earthlings. And so I'm thinking that we are probably moving in the right direction. And TJ, I really appreciate you having the patience to put up with my loss of memory that I'm bringing back in. And so from there, we can move forward.
You said you went to the doctor, and you don't have to discuss all your doctor things, but Friend's your wife of many years, and she knows that we're going through this training with you so we can make sure that we all stay on the cutting edge of what we're doing in cyberspace culture. And you both have your social media accounts on Facebook, and that's where most people can find you. But on Sundays, I'd like people to be able to come and listen about things that you feel are important. And then October 2nd, you'll have to be real still with that phone you have. You have something in your speaker or your speaker. When you move your phone, it makes a real crackling sound. So
I apologize.
That's okay.
I'm holding it in my hand. That's probably the problem. And
okay. Do you have it on speaker?
No, but yes, I have it on speaker.
Okay, well, that's fine. Yeah, you'll have to keep it very still or get it, set it up in front of you on like a book stand or on your computer stand or something.
And if you hear a hum in the background because it's quite hot and steamy outside and all, it's my swamp cooler is blowing some cool air down inside here. Can you hear that?
No. We don't hear any of that. It was just you moving around because I think it's an older phone. And, folks, we have to get updated to our phones because it's expense. But I just got me a brand new one. I'm not talking on it, though. It seems to be, even though I got a brand new Galaxy because I like Samsung, my daughter couldn't hear me. So I don't know if it's because I've got the cover on it, but it's they're not cheap, but you can maybe go to AT&T for 30 months and get a Galaxy, or seniors. I got some special they were running for 30 months. So, but, phones cost, and you do have to have a phone to get to cyberspace these days. But that's all it takes to go to our church we're forming and inviting other people. And if people don't show up on Sundays, it's very curious because we have Pastor Richard T. Knight and Pastor Gwendolyn Adams. Now, Pastor Ken, they both been on this show with you a couple of weeks ago, and we'll see how it goes in the future, folks, because we're coming at a good time for Ken. That's 3-year time, Ken. That works out good, sort of midday before dinner. Is that before you have to feed the horses, right?
Absolutely. And they do take priorities. Otherwise, they might knock me down again.
Well, let's talk about universally. Maybe some people don't know about your history. And now everywhere you've been, you apparently went on Sunday to a brick and mortar or a type or on base from the time you were here in Pensacola. But why don't we reminisce for a little while, and that might help tune up your mind memories, because, folks, we all have a story of origin, and I would like you to understand when we're beginning this church all over again today, it's going to be a nonprofit, Ascension Cosmos Oracles not for profit, because we couldn't get certain names that wouldn't go through in Florida. But we'll still call this Ascension Church Ohana as the radio show on Sundays, in honor of my daughter, and Richard Knight helped us start this. And Pastor Ken Johnston and I have been ACO from the beginning, but online we had chaplains, and you and I have metaphysics, and it's sort of a combination of consciousness, metaphysics, and how people today relate online, and they talk like they don't want to go to the brick and mortar churches, but there's so many of them around the world, and especially in America, and in the old cities up in the hills of Kentucky and Tennessee and Virginia, and there's one on every road. There were road ruts, Ken, where I lived, and I'm sure you've seen plenty of those little churches. Now, some of them are still in existence and used up in the hills of Kentucky, up above Rosine. I lived up there for 20 years, and there was even a Sasquatch, not a hill, a holler, where they had water come out, and they would get water in. I heard this on a Sunday. These people lived up in the hills would go see these. They would sit around at these old coal mine towns, and they'd get in their wagons. I mean, I heard this firsthand, but these people are dead now. And they would go to their little church. It was a way of life. And they may have been from the old people that came from Europe and helped form America. And many families played the mandolin and instruments, and they sang, and they used the King James Version Bible to preach from. Now, do you have any memories of that in past lives, or do you know the history, or you want to share any history or anything like that before we get started long term? History of King James, or how did your parents go to church? Let's start with you there on your story of origin. Did you go to church?
You said my parents involved in church?
Did you go to church? Yeah.
Okay. Yes, my family. I mean, not to separate our organizations, our people. I mean, I was raised in the South, and my mother and that side of the families and all were very strong Baptists throughout the whole South. And growing up, naturally, we would go to the Baptist church for the youth, and then carry on over to the adults. And then our whole day on the Sundays was involved with church. And then we would, and then of course the pastors we would have, he would schedule, and he and his wife would schedule who or which family he would go and have dinner with after Sunday church. And so, that's the way I grew up with that direct contact. So once I reached the age of 14, was it 12? I'm trying to think. You'll have to help me on this one, TJ. How old is the youngest that you can walk down the aisle and accept God to be your guide? And
well, I was in the Baptist, Southern Baptist, 8 years old is when I was first baptized. They expected us to. And once you were baptized, you didn't have to be baptized anymore. But then later on in life, they had the reborn again, so I was rebaptized. And then I became a Latter-day Saint. So what about you? Was it 8 years old? Or now bar mitzvah in the Jewish is 12.
Yes,
Go ahead.
It was. And that was in a little town called Hart, H-A-R-T, Hart, Texas. There were over 500 people, counting all the farmers and all around in that area. And when you grew up around there, you have to be very careful about what you do and what you say, because everybody knows who in my case, my stepdad was, and my mother was the beauty operator on their own little beauty shop there. And if you do anything wrong, the next thing you know, your parents going to come in and pin you down. Like, did you say that? Well, so that was a pretty good upbringing, and being able to be involved in the country. And I grew up as a farmer, driving tractors and picking cotton, you name it. I've been there. It wasn't exactly what I planned for my life, and of course, my life really changed tremendously after that. And then the long back history, which I'm sure others will have had some similar events. My father was a captain in the Army Air Corps in World War II, and he lost his life as a pilot there. So I grew up with several different stepfathers. So I had some people say a very rough time. I've had the opportunity of meeting some of my former, and they're no longer alive. When you get older, TJ, you wouldn't know about this because you're still young. In my case, I'm pushing 80 coming up real soon now. That's amazing. But back in those days, we would do our best to respect the elders. And so that was the way I was raised. And then now I have the opportunity to hopefully bring experience into the line of people and things. Because right now, I'm kind of at a moment here trying to think what is really more important, being able to communicate directly with each other and people. It's going to be very important for those of us, and I'm going to say this, I sound like I'm bouncing all over subjects, but from the sources of information I have, we are going to see and hear more direct contact with extraterrestrials from throughout the universe, and it's about time that we start realizing that we're going to have to change some of our attitudes. At my little desk here, in this part of the house, on the window looking up, I have one of these little heads that you can get at the toy stores and things like that. It's probably about a foot in diameter, and this thing talks to me. Oh, I'm sorry, he just spoke up, so this is alien territory. But it keeps you in line and keeps you focused in on where you're going and what's happening, and hopefully we can realize that we are not the only species in this universe, and that our Creator has some great plans for us in the very near future, and it's starting to happen right now. I don't know if that tells you a little bit about my background. I was I got it to lieutenant colonel and as pilot, and you name it, I've flown it. F-4 Phantom's the fastest one I've ever flown in. That's a little over twice the speed of sound. So we need to stay focused on what's going to be good for humans, us Earthlings, which you just heard from my little ET guy. Beware. So my intent is to work with TJ and have her keep me focused in on the line of where else she's been. And we actually have crossed paths a couple of times in this lifespan that we're doing right now. So TJ, to me, it's an honor, and I respect you very highly for what you're doing, and I thank you for having the patience enough. Unfortunately, as I said, the accidents I've had where it takes a little trigger thinking, and someone to push the right button to get my brain to start functioning in the area you want. And I'll do my best to be of some benefit and help to those that want to call in. And you never know, you may just suddenly discover that we've been there before. So let's take it one step at a time. And I'll do my very best to present what you guys need to hear and what you'd like to hear, and actually things that I need to hear. Okay? I'm right back with you, TJ. Back, what happened? Did I lose you?
Oh, no, it may take me a minute because when you're talking, I mute, so the sound, we have a better recording for YouTube and for iHeart and Speaker and Stitcher and Spotify and all the places that we out there. But good job. Yeah, I believe that part of our history here that we started with the Smithsonian Ace Folklife and all the people that do audio, video, and our specific purpose on Sundays is to meet and talk. And, folks, it was really UFOs, NASA, that brought Ken and I together. I was in, we can talk a little bit about our history of NASA and church, but I always went to church, and Ken always went to church. It was just a normal thing to do in the South. So it's a little hard to get out of that habit, but as you get older, and then COVID 2020 really helped, and then people go to church. So, you know, it's an honor to come back and at least talk to Ken again on Sundays, you know, and his wife, Fran, is very spiritual-minded, and they both follow divine providence with their own higher purpose and their source. And I feel very comfortable with Pastor Ken, and also other people that go direct and talk to their higher power, their God, their source. And, you know, with Ken and I, we're sort of double connected through the Veterans Affairs and how he and I, in 1969, I was living in NASA, Houston, Clear Lake area, and I think you were in South Houston, Pasadena, and I was in South Houston, Pasadena. But you remember where you lived in 1969 when man walked on the moon? Because my husband called me up there to hear about bogies or UFO people. We knew they existed then. And so I'm part of the disclosure, and so are you, Ken. We've been part of disclosure. People just aren't tuning into us because for whatever reason, they haven't put us into the entertainment industry in Hollywood.